Good afternoon, everybody. Isidore Ogoussan here. I'm a financial advisor with 1847 Financial. I've been in the industry now 10 years, a little bit over 10 years. I actually, believe it or not, I actually never dreamed of being a financial advisor. And it was actually not a goal of mine. It just happened 10 years ago when I decided to have a career change from the restaurant industry. Um, and I joined the financial services, and quickly I learned that there's been a lot of areas that of planning that are lacking, not just from individual standpoint, but also from small business standpoint. I went to Temple. I had my bachelor in finance from Temple. If you can't tell you, I'm not originally from here. I'm originally from Republic of Benin in West Africa, from where I had a bachelor degree in accounting before I came here. But when I came to the US, I got the news that my degree was worthless. So I had it to do undergrad all over again. So um, today, what I wanted to cover, full disclosure, there's going to be a lot of conversation about taxation, obviously, because that's gonna the hot topic today with the election, and everything that's being talked about has been around the proposed tax of the newly elected president. And there are going to be some conversation around market conditions, economic conditions, uh, what's happening with estate planning, year-end planning consideration people should have, and then what you should do once we get into 2021 and we start having a much clearer picture of what the next administration will bring to the table. Part of that disclosure is what is that I'm not a CPA, so anything that I said today is not a recommendation. I would strongly advise people to consult the CPA and the tax advisors for anything outside of the general concept of what we discussed today. In terms of estate planning, I'm also not a lawyer. I don't have a law degree. I never practiced law. So anything from a legal standpoint, it's just in the realm of financial planning, those are some of the concepts that we discuss. But when it comes to the implementation and the design of all those documents, you have to talk to a lawyer for that. So, so what's been the buzz around the country today? And really, the election was all about mostly taxes. What is, if Biden becomes the president, what is that going to look like? And much of that conversation, it's really drove pretty much everything that happened during the election, outside of dealing with the virus and the economic situation that we're in. So from a highlight of what the Biden policy may look like, again, everything is being around taxes. So we're talking really increased taxes from an income tax standpoint, mostly on the high income earners, based on some of the conversations that's been happening also on the proposal. Anybody who makes less than $400,000 should not see any increase of taxes. We're talking about marginal taxes also increasing, increased tax on wealth of high net worth individuals. Probably one that I think is going to divide a lot of people in Congress will probably be the elimination of the step up in cost in basis of death. And in terms of financial planning, I mean, for those of you that may not be familiar with step up in cost basis, if let's say mom and dad pass away, leave you an asset that have appreciated over time and actually being transferred to you after death, you would typically get that. You typically get that asset at the value that it is when it was transferred to you, and you wouldn't have to pay taxes on all the growth that it has accumulated from when it was bought. So that's been an important benefit from taxation standpoint that most people actually liked. I don't know if that would be an easy thing to get through, just because of the feeling around that, across the country. So also business owners, depending on where you fall, there are going to be some increase in taxes. It could be an increase in the tax bracket itself, or essentially eliminating a lot of the let's call certain deduction that you can have. So that's a general highlight of what's been discussed around the country today. And just to get a little bit onto a more of an exhausted list of what most people should be expecting. Currently, on the top individual rate, we're looking about 37%. The proposed rate, if things do work out to Biden's favor, will be 39.6, which is a little bit of a 2% more. But we're talking about anybody making over $400,000. I mentioned earlier about the step up in cost basis that will be affected as well if it goes through. I highly doubt that would. Social Security has been a big topic around the country, even for us, for financial planners, talking about, sometimes jokingly, some of us that are younger may not even see Social Security. I highly doubt that, as a country, will let that happen. But from the topic of conversation, there will be Social Security being collected on people that make more than the threshold that we have today. So estate planning, on the estate planning side, what was being really discussed, and when in general in the world of finance, or in the legal word, when people are talking about estate planning, the misconception is that you have to be super wealthy to do estate planning. And it couldn't be anything further from the truth, really, because estate planning, anybody should be doing estate planning. If you have asset, marry, have children, the things that you want to protect to make sure that they get trusted to the person that you want to get to in the most tax efficient way possible. So having your wills, your power of attorney, your living will, and potentially having a living trust to be able to transfer your asset to the next generation in the way that you want it to. It's all important things that people should be looking to do. So from a taxation standpoint, I think the majority of us in the country will probably not fall into a general death tax just because of the level of exemption that we have today. But anyone really, regardless of level of wealth, can make some gifts, can do some gifting. And those are important planning tool that regardless of level of wealth, you can always do. So knowing what we have today, it's really taking advantage of those current laws that are in place, assuming that there will be an increase, or simply getting rid of what's in place now and replace with something else, which quite frankly, a lot of us don't know what the details are. And so continuing on the estate planning conversation, what is the incoming president is proposing? Obviously, no basis step up, potentially decreasing exemptions. Right now, the individual currently have $11.5 million of exemption through 2025, which will sunset at that time, and then revert back to the 5 million prior to when these numbers were increased. We could be seeing anything as low as $3.5 million. So really, for people that are in that, the kind of play in that arena, that's a substantial change in the overall planning that requires some strategic planning that needs to be taking place. And so assuming that a lot of things don't change, because it's pretty difficult in some instance to change some of these laws, even though they have to be generated from the House, which currently it's a majority Democrat. Um, some of the laws that are in place are actually very favorable. So if the mood of the country is to be able to maintain those, I can see how pretty difficult it will be for them to make any change to that. So asset protection becomes very important, meaning looking at protection asset such as life insurance and such, to be able to protect wealth and different level of asset going forward. Gifting is going to be very important, especially if we have the current exemption that we have, to be able to gift a large sum of money, or even a liquid asset, to whether a charity, to family members. These are will be really important planning strategies to implement. And also, if nothing changed, is to really be able to design plans that are very flexible with time. We all know things are always changing. The When I deal with my client, the one that we always have the most difficulty making any changes or even improving on what they already done, it's when they work with, let's say, a estate planning attorney that don't have the experience that's required to design a document that are really flexible with time, and they find themselves being stuck with what they have, and they can really make a lot of adjustment. And that can cost you a lot of money if you find yourself in a pool where these tools can be very important for you to have that flexibility to be able to mold the plan to the time that you're dealing with. Um, so that being said, that's kind of really from a estate planning standpoint, what we see now there, what's being done. I was actually on a webinar yesterday, actually on a conference call with some lawyers from Duane Morris, which is one of the largest law firm here in the country, but also across the world. They have offices in London, in France, and all across the world. And they're telling us that they haven't they haven't been as busy as they've been in a long time, except for the last few months, just because of the buzz around what's happening with taxes, what people anticipating to happen. A lot of wealthy people in the country, a lot of business owners are really lining up at the law firm to get things updated, to implement strategies that will allow them to have more flexibility if things do change down the road, to be able to protect their asset. And same goes for a lot of valuation professional that I know. They're getting businesses reaching out to them, and they're super busy now. I actually just talked to someone yesterday where if you need a valuation done out through his company, you can't get an appointment until after January, because there's a backlog on a lot of businesses. They're trying to do valuation to preserve not only to save on the discounted rate that they're getting because of their business has not been worth what it's supposed to be because of what's happening, but also when things kind of normalize and that business valuation goes up again, they're able to save on the growth from a taxation standpoint. So what's happening in the market? Obviously, for those of you that follow, last week we broke the 30,000 benchmark for the Dow, and everybody was kind of pretty happy about that. And I think we overuse this word this year about anything being kind of unprecedented, and really I'm in a way tired of using that word, because I feel everybody's using it. But yeah, the Dow hit 30,000 last week. Another record for the S&P as well. So these numbers that you're looking here are essentially from last Friday, and the S&P is up over 12% for the year. The Dow almost 5%, and the Nasdaq, which is comprised of most of the tech companies, is over 36%, which is kind of crazy when you really think about it. International, somewhat flat. So if you are in the stock market, as bad as it was in February, when we saw the drop, north of 25, south of 25%, and you stuck around and you didn't make any knee-jerk reaction, you essentially getting back everything that you gave up and some more. But that being said, my feeling on the market is that, and I could be wrong, but I believe among us planners and experts that we've been talking to, it's somewhat artificial at this point. A lot of money is being pumped into the stock market from the Fed. I don't remember, and again, I've been in the industry for 10 years. I talk to people that have been in the industry longer than I have. I don't remember if with the Fed ever purchased equity in this country. I mean, I always purchase bonds, but they were even ready to purchase equity and made it pretty clear that if things really do get that bad, they wouldn't want to make the same mistake they make in 2008, and they would like to be more proactive. So there's a lot of money being pumped into the market, but not only that, I think the tech and the tech stock are really driving the momentum now because of everything that's happening, which kind of indicate that this tech company, in a way, inflating the market more than it should, on top of what the Fed actually is doing. But if you have money in the market, you shouldn't complain, but you should be also prudent that going to 2021, it's doubtful that things will remain the same way that it is. Consider where the economy actually is. The market and economy are not technically speaking the same language. And in order to have a healthy market, a more efficient market, I believe that portion and the economy need to be somewhat on the same level and speaking the same language, so that we have a sort of a healthy growth going forward. There are some of us that think that there will be a drawback, from the market if it's not as soon as first quarter. Some, they're always optimistic and think that the market can never do wrong, and this will continue to be a bull market. I tend not to be in that class of folks, just because if you think back at February this year, roughly around, before February 12th, I was actually on an investment symposium, and the presenter there was talking about, that being the strongest economy we've seen in a while, and potentially probably the strongest stock market we've seen in recent history. And that's when the economy was actually 100% open and still healthy. So, and back then we're talking the Dow was probably at 26, 27,000. And if 26, 27,000 was the healthiest we ever seen, with the full economy being open, how can you justify 30,000 with almost a third of the economy completely shut down and think that's a healthy way to go? I just, logically, the numbers just don't add up, and I could be wrong, and it won't be the first time anybody's wrong in the world of finance. So, so what's happening currently? What's driving the mood in the country when it comes to the market? I think from a fundamental standpoint, which is what we focus on the most of the time, that there's concern and legitimately so, to take a pause to kind of see what's happening, take advantage of what we gain now in terms of gain, but also be prudent, at least when we're talking about our client and how we manage the asset and advise them going forward. But more positive news around the vaccine is definitely getting people more confidence and to go and spend money and participate in the economy, even though, almost more than a third of the economy is still not functioning. As I mentioned earlier, record-breaking numbers last week. But what's really happening and what we are getting is that people are really torn between, you know, the momentum that's happening and the reality that we're dealing with. Number of unemployment, or looking at, possibly eviction for people that rented that don't have work, to pay for the rent. Commercial real estate with, somebody like me who used to be in an office who's not at home. And, my office is not going to be open at least to July 2021. So there's a lot of us that used to be in office buildings, they're not in office buildings anymore. What does that do to commercial real estate? It still remains to be seen. So with all that happening, I think the majority of people now are in a way kind of choosing optimism to kind of move to get, to try to get away from the mundane feel that we're getting across the country. So from, an analogy standpoint, people are looking at this to see more of a, not just as a glass half full, but also looking past the short-term challenges that we're facing in the economy. So it's definitely an interesting time, and kind of see what the mood in the country is in terms of what people are really feeling. So, which kind of brings me into, what happened this week. So this week, last Tuesday, so we had some reporting in terms of key economic data that's been announced. So Wednesday, we have reporting from ADP about, what's going on with unemployment and so on in the country. Today, the job numbers came in. So it looks like there were less unemployment people applying, which is in a way sort of a good news, but still there's a large number of people out there that's still either out of work or underemployed. So Friday, we'll know more tomorrow about what's going on with factories orders. Today, the news just came out that Ryanair just placed the first order through Boeing. So Boeing, jumped up by, 15 points today, $15 today, which is good. So where Boeing goes, it tells what may happen with travels and things like that. So what should we looking forward to next week? Monday, Zoom is going to have, the quarterly reporting, Salesforce, also on Tuesday. And I think if anybody was watching the news today, I can't really remember if it's today was yesterday. Either Salesforce acquired someone or someone acquired Salesforce. So that was kind of like a big news. I can't really remember what the company name is. So Wednesday, there are more numbers coming out. Snowflake is going to have the reporting. CrowdStrike is going to have the reporting. Thursday, we're looking at Marvel, Dollar General, and DocuSign. So for those of you that want to keep up on some of the technology stuff that's happening, next week is going to be a big week to look at those and what the sales numbers will look like in terms of how well they're done. I have a feeling it will be good just because that's what most people are using these days. So, and again, sometimes we get some surprises. So we'll see. So end of year planning. What should people be considering? What should people be doing as we're getting to January, knowing what we know today, the current laws that's in place. And again, I think when we're having this conversation, and most of the pundit out there that put together all these presentations and talk about everything that's happening in the economy, the stock market, the country, they always seem to talk more on a micro level, or really more so about wealthy people that have a certain level of wealth. And I think the majority of us that don't relate to that kind of feel that what they're saying doesn't speak to us, because when you're talking about $11.5 million of exemption, it's like, well, I'm not that wealthy. Why should I even care? But remember, think about it as if you have an IRA account or a Roth account, and your maximum contribution is $6,500 a year. When they tell you that, they're not necessarily telling that you have to put $6,500 a year. You just need to know that's the maximum you can put in. You have to decide on your end what is the amount that you are capable of putting away, knowing that that's really all you can do. If you can do all the $6,500, perfect. If you can do $2,000, that works for you. So when you hear these numbers, what I try to tell people is that don't think that it doesn't apply to you. It actually does. You have to find a way, work with an advisor or a tax expert that can understand your situation, your financial situation, your family dynamic, to be able to tell us something that was best for you, and not so much about what the buzz around the country is. So if you're a business owner and then you have bonuses that you want to pay out, and because the tax landscape is so uncertain going to 2021, and assuming that all these increases will happen, that's kind of the mood around the country now. If all these increases will happen, the prudent thing to do if you're a business owner is to take to pay out those bonuses this year. Assuming that things will change, it will be beneficial for them to do that this year, to take advantage of the current low tax bracket or tax environment. In a way, looking at deferring certain business expense deduction to get potential, higher tax benefit from 28 or 36% of tax rate, top rate in 2021. Also, really be careful in considering the timing in which you do your itemized deduction. And again, I'm not a CPA, so this is more applicable for those of you that have CPA that you work with. And if you don't have one, really, because of the complexity of all these things, my suggestion would be start working with a CPA, especially if you're a business owner. It's just too much to be left on the table not to work with a professional that knows how this thing works to make sure they maximize what can be maximized when it comes to you and your business. And again, if you have family members that you are comfortable having this conversation with in terms of gifting, especially grandparents that are looking to do something nice for you and your family, and you don't necessarily have to wait to die to do those things, this is the time to start having those conversations. Have this conversation with them, the financial planners, the lawyers, to find out what is the proper gifting strategy that will benefit the family overall. There's some things that can be done now where you don't have to wait till death to do them. And it's important to start doing those today, knowing that we have a somewhat favorable tax environment to be able to do them, assuming that things will change in 2021, to take advantage of the current law that's in place. So gifting is going to be huge. And it doesn't have to be necessarily cash gifting. I think that's where the misconception really happens when it comes to gifting. Most people always think right away about cash. Let me write a check. But it could be a gifting of a stock portfolio. It could be a gifting of a liquid asset like a house or a business interest. So, I mean, this is really where tax advisors really come to play in terms of how to deal with this thing. So this election brought about a lot of conversation about planning, obviously, a lot of it around taxation. But going forward, I don't see, and again, life insurance has always played a huge role into protecting assets. And in my 10 years of doing this, and also talking to people that are a lot more experienced than I am and been in the industry a lot longer, I haven't met anyone that complain when there's an unfortunate event, death that happened, that a life insurance policy is being paid out. I have not met anyone that complain about the money they're getting. And that's an important thing to point out, because I think people miss the aspect of the importance of having asset protection using life insurance to do so. not only from an asset transfer, it is currently in the way the law is structured, and I believe even going forward, that will probably be the one area that won't be any change. When it is designed properly and is implemented the right way, it's a tax-free asset that comes to you. Business owners especially underplay the importance of life insurance in asset protection. And it's unfortunate that I, in a way, come across that sometimes, that especially when they have multiple, partners, whether it's one or multiple partners, to protect each other, their own interests, to make sure that if something happened to one of them, there's liquidity in place to deal with what may come. So not only for businesses, but also for individuals, it's important to look at what life insurance, the role that life insurance can play in planning going forward. What to watch out for as well is some of the changes that may be coming down the road in terms of impact on retirement planning. I think there's a new bipartisan retirement bill that's been worked on, and the major point in that is currently is pushing the RMD age from 72, it was 70 and a half, now from 72 to 75. I guess people are living a lot longer, so they may not necessarily need their money that early. But I think, there's always the other side of the coin is that the more they push this stuff back, the more tax revenue they collect. That's what the government does. So everybody just have to find within themselves how these things benefit them and how they can apply it to their own situation. Part of that is what is that to give more flexibility to people that have not been able to maybe start a little late in life to start saving for retirement, where before you can be cut off, especially after, most people after 60, not being able to have more flexibility to contribute to retirement account now is to be able to allow those people to have more flexibility, more option to contribute into retirement. So that's an important feature to be looking out for. Also, potential changes for nonprofit organizations that maybe don't have the resources to put in place proper retirement planning for the employees and members. Now can be part of a pool of nonprofit organizations to have kind of sort of a pool retirement plan. Which, if it works, could be a game changer for a lot of nonprofit organizations. So just a couple highlights of what may be coming down the pipeline when it comes to retirement planning. Currently, with the low current interest rate environment, I think it's a great time to start looking at leveraging low interest rate environment in terms of planning for businesses. In a way, doing some really neat planning from business valuation standpoint, using this current interest rate environment to take advantage of preserving companies' value today at a discount rate, and then reap the benefit when things kind of normalize and sales are back to where they're supposed to be, and the value of the company goes up. And again, gifting again, it's very important. It can be done at so many different levels. Don't necessarily have to be in a high income earner to be able to do that. So that will be a conversation to be having with your parents, conversation to be having with your grandparents, to be able to do things like that in a time where maybe we may never see an opportunity like this for a really long time with this level of exemption that we have today. And from a portfolio standpoint, diversification is key. If anything that the market is teaching us is that no one sector is always number one at all time. Things are always changing. Energy could be number one today and be number 11 tomorrow. Today, techs are pretty much driving the market today. And then who knows, when the economy fully open and we got things like restaurant stocks started to, gain some steam and manufacturing and so on and so forth. And those stocks becoming more attractive at that time. Energy stock, for example, in clean energy, based on the conversation that Joe Biden is having, that getting rid of fossil fuel energy and investing more money in clean energy, you can start seeing, those type of stock really gaining steam in 2021. That even in the energy sector alone, you can also diversify a lot in that sector. So it's really having a true diversification in all 11 sectors of the economy, knowing that not one sector really drives everything at all time. So talk to your advisors, put your team together, really focus on what's important to you, your family, the legacy that you want to leave behind, the goals and objectives that you have, to make sure that they work with you to put in place a plan that fits you, that works for you, that benefits you the most. And then and really that's really what I have for you guys today. I really encourage you to start having this conversation with your advisor, whether it's your tax advisor, your financial planner, your legal advisors. Like they always said, you always gonna fail if you don't plan. And anybody who's owned a business, who got into any type of venture, knows that you have to plan to have an idea of where you're going. And the more you do it and the more consistent you are, most likely you're going to be successful in what you're doing. The same goes for your financial planning as well. So that's really all I have for you today. So I wanted to leave some time for anybody that has any question, anything that I can answer within my my jurisdiction, really, to say the least. So Arnab, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask a quick question in the chat, but I guess I could just ask it now.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I was just wondering what made, would you know if what made Ryanair decide to make the purchase from Boeing at this time?
Well, from what I read, I think Boeing has really recognized that they fell in a way in making the plane safe. I believe the CEO they hired a little bit over a year or 2 years ago had some incentive in his salary structure to clean house and get things in order and really get this plane to be certified to go back in the air again. I think they're on track, they're on track to doing that. And they're showing now with the latest test that's been done that the plane is safe to fly again. And again, who knows what that will look like when they actually started to fly. That's what everybody thought when this thing came out first, and was the a huge technological airspace advancement in airplane. And unfortunately, we had these two crashes that just grounded everything. So Ryanair felt like Boeing is being truthful, and I'm sure they've done their own due diligence and the testing and what they need to do to feel confident at this point that they can place an order and actually looking to be flying by the end of the year.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. All right,
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions for Isidore? Oh, there's one in the chat. When things are out of, so it seems like Michael says, when things are out of place, those with assets have amazing opportunities. Yes, that's
very true. I think you can always find well, if you know where to look and look hard enough, you can always find great opportunity even in the midst of chaos. And in some of the market, the opportunities being in tech and communication technology. I mean, really, I follow the the ascendance of Zoom really when this whole thing started, and looking at all the tech company how they really took off. It was amazing to watch, but then again, you got to know that it can't be like that forever. So be opportunistic when you can, but also be prudent going into the next stage of 2021.
Mhm.
So I'm going to leave my contact information here for those of you that have additional question, maybe don't want to pose it here and want to have a separate conversation outside of the scope of what we discussed today. Feel free to take my contact information and let me know how I can help.
Thanks, Isidore.